Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to the first reward according to me of 2026. I hope that this year this will be more consistent of a thing to do. I am still going to abide by my thing of not doing, not forcing it, but still being more consistently, and not just doing, you know, predictions and other things. So. But yeah, first one of 2026, and I got a new one, obviously, with the beginning of the year. Let's make this the 5 things I would like to see in WWE in 2026. So, let's go ahead. This is in no particular order except the last one. The last one is number 1 without question. But these are in no particular order. So, let's get to it. Number 5, TNA Emergence. Now, what I mean by this is that I want this NXT WWE TNA partnership to be an actual partnership. I felt in 2025 WWE kind of ran Rec Shop over TNA. And while I will still believe that Joe Hendry, as short of a time as he was in the Royal Rumble as TNA World Champion, was great. The Joe Hendry in the little short match with Randy Orton on WrestleMania was great for TNA. When it came to the NXT part of it, I kind of felt that they kind of ran roughshod. I mean, all of their wrestlers held TNA gold. Only the Hardys won NXT gold, and that was the tag match at the Showdown thing that they did on NXT, and and so I wanted to be a little bit more even this time. If you're gonna do these things, I want TNA to be more solid and more of an actual partnership. Now, I was hoping that this past week's NXT, Moose would actually win the North American Championship. Um, it didn't even to Ethan Page. He still held on to it, but I would have liked to see Moose hold it. And so I do hope that we do get this thing. You know, they've been playing promos for Obafemi on both Raw and SmackDown, so he's getting the call up very soon. So, could they be getting ready to put the NXT title, on Leon Slater, TNA X Division champion? Now, while I think that's maybe not the way to go, I kind of think maybe you should put it back on Ricky Starks. I think that's a great thing. Now, I guess you could say Ricky Starks can win it back from Leon Slater. But boy, I would, especially maybe at a standing deliver or something like that. But man, I would love to see. I would love to see that. You know, but more TNA getting more, um, getting the better of NXT/WWE. And speaking of that, I would also like to see more TNA on WWE. Actually, in fact, I was thinking about this before I did this. The reports are that the Mania main events are going to be Punk and Breaker for the World Heavyweight Championship, um, and Roman versus Cody for the WWE Championship. And last night on SmackDown, we heard about Sami Zayn talked about being a world champion, so he's probably not going to get the opportunity to be world champion with more than likely Breaker and Roman having it throughout most of this year. Now maybe Sammy could beat Breaker, maybe Sammy could even beat Roman. Who knows? I would think that maybe there's someone bigger than Roman. Um, but why not bring in the TNA World Champion? Whether that's Kazarian or whether that's um, um, Mike Santana. I think on their debut on AMC, they're gonna have a match um, for the TNA Championship, and Mike Santana may win it back. So maybe it's Mike Santana. Have Mike Santana come out challenging Sami Zayn for WrestleMania. For, obviously Sami's not gonna win, but have TNA be on, and also for those who thought that they got the shaft last year. I don't think so, but for those who think they got the shaft at last year's WrestleMania with their TNA champion only, having a 3-4 minute match with Randy Orton, you go out there, you have a 12 to 15 minute match with Sami Zayn, and it tears down the house, and TNA goes over. It looks good. It looks great. It's a win-win. So I want to see more emergence from TNA this year in this WWE NXT partnership, and hopefully it would happen. So the fourth one is stopping of the AEW counter program. Stop giving them the attention that they don't deserve. They don't deserve it. And the fact that this year, 2025, they did so many things to counter program their show that it possibly even backfired on them, right? Because I think there were a lot of people who did not watch Evolution because they were, they were counter programming AEW, that AEW All In weekend, and they counter programmed a pay per view with Goldberg's retirement match, and it didn't. And I don't think Goldberg didn't like it because it wasn't what the John Cena thing was. And yes, John Cena had 20 plus years in WWE. Goldberg didn't, but Goldberg was he's a legend in this business, and he deserved something more than just that. He deserved some type of longer type build than what he got, and definitely deserved to have the opportunity to speak to the crowd if he wanted to, for a certain amount of time. So, there was so many things wrong with that, and there's so many other things. And then when it came down to it, AEW kind of programmed them by having their War Games match, the Blood and Guts, 2 weeks before they had War Games. And because we have, some fans who don't get the business as well, all of the blood and the violence and the stupidity that was in both the women's and men's War Games match on AEW, did not feel it felt different than what we saw on WWE. And listen, I will say this as well. Again, I think what AEW did on those War Games match was trash. It was garbage. It was not good. It just wasn't. Sky Blue bleeding buckets isn't great for the business. It doesn't make me want to watch. Because she's just bleeding just to bleed. What storytelling is there in that? There is none. It's garbage. Having said that, it does feel like it's a more violent and a more dangerous type of match when they do all of that shit that they did than the WWE stuff. I would totally admit that. And listen, I gave the women's War Games match, I believe I gave it 4 3/4 stars. I thought that was an excellent match. I thought the Miz match, to get the Miz match 4 1/4 star. So, I thought they were very well done. But yeah, I can even admit that when there's blood and there's thumbtacks and there's, boards of barbed wire or nails or whatever that shit was, it feels a lot more violent. And for that, people thought that the WWE War Games matches wasn't great when they were. But they had just watched the shit on AEW, and that was Tony Khan's plan. He well executed done. He kind of counter-programmed WWE stuff, and it backfired on them in a little bit. So this year, and this year they don't need to be trying to counter-program AEW. They really don't. The only time they should counter-program AEW is during those times. I think there are 2 or 3 times during the year when AEW moves Dynamite to Tuesday because of like a hockey thing or the basketball thing. I don't have basketball anymore, but they move it for some reason, and they move it to Tuesday because Wednesday is going to have some other type of event. So yeah, you coming to Tuesday? Okay, yeah. You coming to our day? Yeah. We're gonna program the shit out of you. We're gonna put we're gonna have NXT title matches on NXT. We're gonna have some main rosters show up. We're gonna have all of those things like they did that one time when they had everybody. John Cena was down there. Paul Heyman, The Undertaker came out. They did all of that stuff on on that night. So yeah, that's the only time you should counter program AEW. Otherwise, don't do it. Because two, one, they don't deserve your time and attention, and 2, they can easily counter program the stuff on you, and then it makes your stuff not look as great as it is because they're doing some garbage shit that the fans, for some reason will think it's better than the stuff that you're doing. So please stop counter programming AEW. It's not worth it. So number 3, continuation of the US Open Challenge. SmackDown has now moved to 3 hours. I don't know how long that is going to be. I don't know how long, if that's a permanent, if it's again a temporary type of thing. I'm not sure what it is, but SmackDown on 3 hours. So you have a lot more time. So why not continue the US Open Challenge? And it does seem like it's going to be that way because last night on SmackDown, Carmelo Hayes pretty much said so when he was talking to Ilya Dragunov that he's going to continue the U.S. Open Challenge. And I think that's actually a great idea. And in fact, what I think they need to do is just make it a permanent thing. At some point, a heel needs to win the United States Championship, right? Because that's going to be even better, right? But and a heel's not going to want to do it, but force the heel to do it. Nick Aldis puts it in it. No, you're doing it. You're doing the U.S. Open Challenge each and every week. And it's even great because then you're going to want to see them face the baby faces, and hopefully get their comeuppance, and lose the championship. So I hope that continuation happens. They said it was going to be, but I even hoping that when the heel does win it, now maybe they might go all of 2026 and just have all the baby faces win it. I would not mind it, but I continue to hope that at some point a heel does need to win it. And in fact, now that Trick Williams is on SmackDown and Carmelo Hayes is holding the United States Championship, it's kind of like a built-in rivalry right there. And I don't see, and I think they can do a 3-match program so easy where it goes. People have been talking about when's the last time a single black male wrestler has had a match on a premium live event, right? This is the IWC's proof that Triple H is racist. Even though he put the title on 2 black women, Naomi and Jade Cargill, and had them in a singles feud that went from WrestleMania, to Evolution. But Triple H is racist. Whatever. Anyway, but okay, so give them what they want then. Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes at WrestleMania. If this is not the plan, This is what I'm saying. I'm not gonna go as far as call Triple H racist, but I will question Triple H. I've questioned a lot of stuff that he's done, going back to the old Jey Uso 51 days as world champion. But this will be a head scratcher. This is a built-in thing, and have them do WrestleMania, have them do whatever the pay-per-view is in the middle, then have them wrestle at SummerSlam as well. And you can even have Trick beat him at WrestleMania. They wrestle again, Trick wins again, and then at SummerSlam, Carmelo Hayes can win it back. It writes itself. But yeah, and this one has already come true. So, but I do hope the U.S. Open Challenge does continue throughout the rest of 2026. There are two hashtags that I dread showing up on Twitter. One is hashtag rest in power. I mean, somebody, usually means somebody major has passed away. And they're telling people to rest in power. And that's just obviously tragic. The other one is hashtag WWE releases. And over the past 5 years, we've seen a lot of the WWE releases hashtag. And I hope in 2026 we don't see the WWE hashtag, the hashtag of WWE releases often, if at all. Now, some may say that you got to, because especially when it comes down to NXT, maybe some of the folks are not getting it and they need to be gone, or to make room for some other people they're bringing in. They're bringing in new talent, like every 3 or 4 months, every season, I guess you could say, every quarter, of the year, they're bringing in new talent. So maybe you're gonna need to, maybe, bring some of those, take out some of the people who maybe aren't getting it as fast or who just don't have it or whatever. As you bring in some new talent, so maybe that, but as it comes to like the main roster and certain NXT talent, just let their contract expire. Just let their contract expire, right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what, who. Let's just say who excuse, and okay. Here's the deal. So the Creeds, right? The Creeds and Ivy now have not done anything for the majority of 2025 ever since Chad Gable went down with the injury. They haven't done too much. They finally were like in the background of the picture, the background of the thing, and back in on Monday Night Raw, doing like the AJ Dragon Javon Evans stuff with the Los Americanos. And Chad Gable has been, and it's been rumored that Chad Gable is getting ready to make his return. So maybe they put him in the background, maybe just have them get ready to come back and start. And the Creeds, it could be a new tag team to go against another new champions, the Usos. So okay, that's fine, but they haven't, but they haven't been on television. So let's just say if their contract was going to end, let's say around SummerSlam, right? So instead of letting them go, just and you didn't think, and you don't think that you're getting what they need to get out of them, or you don't think that the roster's bloated or whatever, just leave them off TV and let their contract expire. Don't release them, right? And as I say this, I don't want the Creeds to release. I see great things in the Creeds. I really do. And I think Ivy Niles can have a great future as well. If not, in the ring as a wrestler, even though I think she's fine in the ring, she just isn't able to get over with the crowd, it seems. At least as a heel, I think she was getting a little bit over it as a babyface, but maybe not as a heel. Um, so maybe she should just be like the manager person or whatever. But yeah, don't just don't fire them, and don't release other ones as well, and don't release people who have been around forever. Right? Like with the thing with AJTRIP. Don't let their contract expire either. Now there are some rumors out there that I think that Bayley's contract expires sometime this year, or something like that. I don't know. Because people have been talking about Bayley going to AEW to be with Mercedes, Sasha Banks. Um, and then also a lot of talk about Bayley's now she wants to do behind the scenes stuff. And maybe that's and maybe that's what she wants to do, and that's fine. Maybe she transitions to the behind the scenes stuff. I think it would be good to have somebody behind the scenes as a female working with the I don't want working with the women, the ladies, who is a woman lady, um, who maybe can work on their storylines and things like that, because it's what it is. I don't know how many women writers they have or how many women things that they do, but sometimes pretty much older men writing stories for women could, I think that's a little bit of a valid criticism where the stories that they tell sometimes with women, it's just, um, hey, bitch, and you, bitch, and all those things. And so it maybe needs to be more in depth. So let some women do that. I think Molly Holly is on the creative team as a woman, or at least she's an agent backstage at least. So maybe if Bayley wants to do that, that's fine. But yeah, don't start letting their contracts slide like the Miz. When R-Truth was told his contract was going to expire, that's the one thing they went to. The Miz. The Miz next. The Miz next. The Miz should not ever be. Miz should not ever be gone from WWE unless it's by his choosing. Once his full-time in-ring career is over, and to be honest, it's probably starting to get to that point, he can be a manager. He can go to the commentating desk. There are so many things that he can do. Um, that is perfect for him. He's such a good manager because he can talk and he can take bumps. There's been some talk about Nikki Bella becoming a manager becoming a manager. That's got to be the Miz stuff as well. He would. I don't want to say this because but he could definitely totally be the next Jim Cornette of managers without question. So yes, let's not have releases this year if we can, within reason. You know what I'm saying? Again, maybe it might be understandable if you're doing like the NXT Performance Center stuff, but not the main roster and not any main NXT people. Now, when I started this video, I said it wasn't in any particular order, even though I did number them and things like that. And if you guys noticed, the first one was actually backwards. I had the number at the bottom and the top. That's neither here nor there. But this, without question, is the number one thing, without question. If it was in order, this is number one, and this really needs to happen. And that's the expulsion, the whatever you want to call it, getting rid of JDS in the IWC. But it's JDS, Jey Uso derangement syndrome. Now, some of you may have heard of TDS, and we don't have to get too far. We don't have to go into this. We don't have to get political. But TDS stands for Trump derangement syndrome. Is what some people on the conservative side call what liberals have because they're so obsessed with Trump or whatever. And I think a lot of members of the IWC have this Jey Uso derangement syndrome, where they're obsessed with hating this guy for no reason at all, right? Some people say that they don't like him because he can't wrestle. I disagree. He can wrestle. I think that I think that is again I think that is something where because he's not doing suplexes or other things like this that they might likely think that he can't wrestle, and that's just not the case. He can. They don't. They think he's just an entrance, and I think again that's another thing. He's more than an entrance. Sure, the entrance is catchy, it's great, you know, everything like that. Everybody yeets. I just saw something on Twitter. They showed the last night on SmackDown where the 76ers they were doing the yeet with in the crowd. They were doing one of the timeouts, and they were playing Jey Uso's music, and they were having the crowd yeet. So it's not only is yeet and the yeeting over, it's it's gone worldwide. It's the yes. Remember when the San Francisco Giants were doing the Daniel Bryan yes chant, or the people were doing they were fandangoing, several years ago when Fandango was good, and they were doing all this. Yeah, it's the same thing here with Jey Uso. So, so more than that, I will admit his promos are not great. In fact, they've gotten worse. And whether it's because he's tired from yeeting, coming down the and yeeting, or he's going into the Steve Austin thing, where Steve Austin started doing his when what started happening, he started doing his promos so that the crowd could say what in between everything, and Jey Uso does that, so now the crowd can say yeet every time he stops talking. Whatever that may be, I admit his promos have gotten a little bit worse than what it was than what it was in the past. Jey Uso was a average to good promo, especially when it's something emotional, something about his family. It's amazing what it is what he can do. But yeah, his promos are not the best in the thing. I will fully admit that. But there has been no reason for all of the hate just because he was world champion and in the main event scene, and he was in his main event Jey Uso. He needs to be in the main event scene. And I think the thing that got me was that people was up. He needs to be back in the tag team. He needs to be back in the tag team. Okay, so now he's back in the tag team, and people were still upset this Monday because he was in the main event and he won the tag team titles. This is what you wanted. Now you're still upset. JDS, Jey Uso derangement syndrome, and it's one of the most sickening things in the IWC because it's for no reason. You don't have to be a fan of Jey Uso. I'm not saying that everybody has to be a fan. I'm not a fan of a lot of things, of a lot of wrestlers in WWE. I'm not a fan of the White Six. I'm not that big a fan of DIY. I'm not a big fan of at this point maybe you say Rusev. But by the way, where has been Rusev has been? Let me see him anyway. Um, I'm not a big fan of Gunther, even though I can truly admit that Gunther is a tremendous character and a tremendous wrestler. I can admit that. But I'm not necessarily a big fan of Gunther, especially after what the whole thing with Jey Uso. But that doesn't mean that when things like I'm not so upset that they're in the Wyatt Six have the tag team titles and they've been holding them for the longest time, and now they're in the thing with I'm not on there saying the Wyatt Six sucks. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm not going to that. It's just not my type. I don't call the Y6 the devil like some influencers do. And whether they do it, you know, for to entertain their audience, or whether they truly meant it, doesn't matter. Why are you calling Jey Uso the devil? He didn't go out and kill anybody. He didn't go out there and beat somebody, beat a woman up or anything like that. You calling him the devil? Why? Because because in the middle of a match he runs it back. He runs it back. He ran it back in the middle of War Games. So he's the devil. Get the fuck out of here. JDS. And what I want this year in 2026 is I want people, whether you need to go out and you need to talk to a therapist, or whether you just need to just not take yourself so seriously, or just realize what the fuck it is you're talking about here. A guy who has done nothing wrong, anything wrong, you don't have to like him. I'm not saying you don't have to like him, you don't have to be a fan of him. That being said, you shouldn't be, calling for him to be, burned at the stake, which is what some people call for. It really isn't. That doesn't need to happen. So, hopefully in 2026, we can expulse the JDS from the IWC. And we can just let Jey Uso be Jey Uso. And if you don't like him, you don't like him. But you don't have to call him the devil. You don't have to wish, pain on him. You don't have to, tweet at Triple H to get rid of Jey Uso and to fire him or whatever else. You can just let Jey Uso be and let those that like him, let those that love him, like myself, just go. And you like what you like. A very big influencer here on YouTube, and I'll shout him out, Brian Zane. He has something where he says, like what you like, but don't be a dick. Right? That was one of his major sayings back in the day. Take a little bit of that. Yeah, like what you like, but don't be a dick about Jey Uso. You don't need to be. That the JDS clear out from the IWC. That's the number one thing I want this year in WWE. So there you have it, the 5 things that I would like to see in WWE 2026 this year. Let's make 2026 a great year for WWE guys. Alright? Can we do this? Hopefully WWE will do their part, and let's do our part. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Do you like you like my ideas? Do you not like my ideas? Please post them down in the comment section. Let me know. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, I'm going to try to be more consistent with my That's Your Shoots. I'm already not consistent this year, because usually That's Your Shoots on Friday, and this is now coming out on Saturday. I'm recording this and putting this out on Saturday, so I'm already starting 2026 off bad. But like I said, hopefully more consistent. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJTRIP signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there, and I am out.